I just mentioned to you crop circles, mutilation of animals, and abductions of humans. When I was chief of the Fork Technology Division, I went to the general one day and it was agreed that we would start no projects in the Army, in our division, our area, with the money we had in the organization, on those three items: crop circles, mutilations, and abductions. But we would watch them. We would keep getting the reports and watch them, but start no projects, because our main objective in those days was weapons of war. We called it to advance the competitive edge of the Army. Even the beings, it didn't matter to us whether they were real or not. And it didn't matter if they came here by accident or design. But our motto was, if they're real, we're going to be ready. We're not going to sit here like stupid beings and say they aren't around. We have to work on assumptions that they are there. And we have to work on the assumption that they might be enemies. So we have to be ready. So I told the general, our main thrust, and I hardly got enough time to do what I'm doing. So what I'll do is, because I had the type of thing, I could read a document and remember it, and read it in a matter of a minute or so. I told him, I'll keep getting these reports and watch this, but we will do nothing about it. Only collect information. And for years I collected documents here at the White House, which talked about mutilations. We know about them. We made the decision that crop circles were nothing else, I guess, but integrated circuits, and we put them in an integrated circuit, they would give us a message. Abductions, we came to the conclusion they're happening. But we're not going to do anything about it, even start any projects, whether it's true or not. But we were receiving material, so I did get two of the implants. The implants are real. There's other implants which I've never talked about that we knew were real. And you couldn't take them in your hand because they were microscopic, but they were there. So the future has to go along those lines. I know from my own, when I was working at this, I know that they're real. They happen. I don't think any other of those people who are talking can say this. They weren't cleared. They didn't get the reports. They didn't have access to them. Yeah, they talked to abductee. They talked to them, and then what happens? The critic says, hallucination, self-hypnotism, and you're finished. How are you going past that? The only way you can pass that, like I told this little girl, she didn't quite understand it. When I tell you that there was two implants from abductee, that makes you authentic. Use it. You make your living at it, and I like you. Use my name if you want to. Go ahead. Tell them Colonel Corso told me this. But it's in an area that we never did anything about. We never put out research and development projects. We never looked into the reason for it, because we had our hands full of what we were doing. That wasn't my job to do that. And I briefed the general that we shouldn't do it. Watch it, but don't do anything about it. We didn't spend a penny on projects of that type. Our money went, like I told you, on a night viewing device, millions of dollars. That was a product of war. Soldiers in Vietnam could see the enemy at night. That's what we were working on, lasers, fiber optics, communication. So those were the main thrust of our organization. The extraterrestrial himself, I always say, that's the greatest gift they gave us, and we did nothing with it. And who was in charge? I was. So that meant I did nothing with it. Now, in my old age, maybe I feel guilty, and I've been writing about it now. When I wrote to my own doctor, the thing I gave you, I put it in an envelope, took it to the doctor, this friend of mine, and on the envelope I wrote, "Help, doctor." He knew what I meant, the lymphatic system. He's a surgeon. He's expert at that. He operates in that area. I'm no doctor. I can't carry that on. I don't know anything about what I know about the lymphatic system, what I read. But here's a man who saves people alive, like he saved mine doing that, knowing what's there. The lungs, not all the same thing. Experts have to come into this and look at this entity or this being. After all, he is a biological entity. All these stories of clone, oh, it's against religion, and it's awful, man wants to live forever, and it affects the emotion. That's all baloney. It doesn't enter into this area alone. It doesn't enter this area at all. Because that clone was made for another purpose. He's not in the ordinary sense that we write what clones are like. Made it for another purpose, to travel in space. They want to see what space is like. They came here. Without that, the way that was made with the flying saucer, they would have even never made it here. Maybe they have something else, I don't know, but I don't know of any.
Can I switch to another subject for a second?
Yeah.
Like, there was in Brasilia, at the First World Forum in Brasilia, a guy named Cope Shelburne. This researcher stated that in the last 50 years, maybe, but to be more precise, 35 years, 167 UFO researchers died for unknown causes, such as strange suicides or heart attacks, very sudden heart attacks with no medical records before, and eventually brain tumors and so far so on. His theory was that the UFO researchers are very keen to disappear sooner or later for no reasons, for no apparent reasons.
I can't give you credibility on that story, because from what you told me, there are many, many cases where people die from tumors when they haven't never had anything before. There are many cases when they die from disease which they never showed before. There are many thousands of cases where people never had a heart pain and die all at once of a heart attack. There's too many cases where that happens to humans. So I can't go back and say, when a doctor can come to me and say, hey, Corso, what are you talking about? I know about 1,000 cases of people died of heart attacks. I can't isolate it to the flying saucer caused that, because there's too much of that happening every day anyway.
Yeah,
I couldn't say that. No, I can't come and tell you I know.
Don't have a suicidal tendency. I mean, I don't have it.
It happens every day, suicides. You know, see, I can't come and isolate and say, I know that this happened because a flying saucer came down. I have no. A critic can come up and say, well, what about these other millions of cases happened over the ages of suicides, of diseases, of heart attacks? You see, I don't know anything about that. I've never seen anything that can prove that. Okay. One way, prove it or disprove it. I never bothered to look into it.
Yeah, but there's a possibility the government or the secret or inner government or occult theocracy wants to...
Maurizio, you've asked me this. Yeah, there's a possibility for almost everything. But I won't talk about, if I say there's a possibility this happened, I'll say that there's a possibility, and I'll tell people this conjecture and guesswork on my part. And that's all it is. Don't ask me for evidence because I can't supply it. I don't know it. And the same thing you're just telling me. I can't say yes, that it happened. I can say it could happen, but I'm guessing.
All right, but in the intelligence field, you were supposed to eliminate enemies, isn't it? Physically.
Yes, I was in some cases.
So let's wonder for a second that the UFO researchers are enemies, are foreseen as enemies, or they're dangerous eventually.
I told you one time, for the moment, the gist of it, I did say, no, I won't come aboard because I don't trust you. You've performed too many overt acts against my people. You have killed us, you have destroyed aircraft, you have destroyed people on the ground, you have abducted. Yes, you're I have to classify you, since I'm military, as an enemy, because you have done these things. But the thing is, I never knew if they were done by design or by accident. Since we never knew this, I discussed with the general, but in case they are enemies, let's be ready. We never proved that they were enemies or not enemies. I remember on one occasion I came up with a thing, are you a friend or enemy? Neither. What was I going to tell General Trudeau? I said neither. He said, what the heck's that? You mean that do you mean that we don't make the weapons or we make them? The logical thing of somebody with intelligence, no, we got to keep on making weapons, just in case they are enemies. We're responsible for the security of the nation. Like when Chris Wallace asked me one day on the TV, 2020, no, it wasn't 2020, it was his program. He asked me, he said, Colonel, tell us about the Cold War. I said, Chris, please, would you stop there? I'm not trying to be funny or anything. I don't know of any Cold War. Every war that I was involved in, even later, when it was supposed to be Cold War, was a hot war. People were shooting each other and killing each other. Tell these boys when those aircraft, when the MiG came out with a 30mm cannon, there was a Cold War. And I told him, this is not being funny, I don't want to answer you, this is the truth. So later he took me, we walked from the White House, and he had cameramen going alongside of us. And Chris Wallace stopped. And he said, Colonel, I'm just thinking what you said. And he said, now I can understand. You people were responsible for security of the nation. You had to think that way. That there was no... How could you think that there was a Cold War when your own soldiers were being killed fighting the Russians on the borders? That wasn't a Cold War, that was a hot war. I told him, that's the only wars, unfortunately, I've been involved in, Chris. I can't tell you about any such thing that was made up in the newspapers, a Cold War. There was no such thing. This is the same thing, question you asked me. I got to tell you, Maurizio, there's no way in the world where I can tell you that they won't attack us. But from a soldier, I got to be ready for any attack that might come. If I'm not, I'm negligent, and I shouldn't be dressed in a military uniform. And that's the same thing that General Trudeau, who commanded the division at Port Chop Hill, who was a corps commander. Same thing. Got to be ready for every eventuality, otherwise you'll be destroyed, and your country will go with it. So this thinking, maybe you say, well, military men think that way. We had to think that way. As far as flying saucers came, we still had to, our thinking didn't change. It was the same thinking go over to them. Just in case, we're going to be ready. We didn't say in case we're going to be friends. We didn't care. Friends or enemies, we're going to be ready.
Let's just suggest.
It's logical.
All right. That one day they invade us. It's just a pure suggestion. It's just a speculation.
All right.
Is that possible that the end of the war will be determined by hand-to-hand combat? I mean,
here's what I'll answer your question this way. You say they're going to invade us, maybe. Will they fight, if they're superintelligence, will they fight wars on our level? Will they fight with cannon and weapons or guns? Or will they fight us on another level? That's my answer. You want to hear more about that answer? Let's take one item. I don't say that they put it in this world or they made it, but it's a possibility. HIV appeared in this world in 1985. Some people say, well, it went back to animals in Africa. But it happens to be HIV in the human being is not a virus as we think it's a virus. It's a living entity in itself. And it's in our bodies, and when you catch it, you die. It's a living entity by itself. If we kill HIV in a human being, we got to kill the living entity, which is we call a virus. Won't the super race, a super intellect that won't fight us with stupid weapons that are not much more advanced than, say, the crossbow, with a gun and bombs and bombs? Why should they fight us on this? If they're super intelligent, they'll find another way to fight us, maybe on another level.
Okay, that's why I'm asking you. The final combat has to be eventually struggled between beings fighting hand to hand. That's my idea. In other words, you've been in different situations of war. Obviously, if you want to conquer a certain territory, and you race down everything with bombings and so far so on, but then again, your troops have to advance and go and conquer the place, isn't it? And maybe you can find enemies hidden somewhere, and it will be a confrontation, a very physical confrontation.
But when they come up with a confrontation, I don't think it'll be on our level.
But if they have to conquer territory, physically territory, that would be on.
Not necessarily. They don't have to do it with bombs and guns. I say they're an intellect is on another level. And I think we were foolish. Now, we thought this, and we had to do it because we didn't know anything else. Back in my day, we developed weapons of war. But they were advanced weapons of war, with laser and things of that type. Missiles, large missiles that we made. And we even tried to make a helmet that the pilot could guide the airplane by thought waves. We were starting to work on that. That's pretty much a different level than we're talking about fighting a war like we fought in Italy with bombs and guns. I'd be foolish to think, although we could do nothing else, we made weapons, but we tried to make advanced weapons that maybe we could reach them if they tried anything like this. But we're never sure that they would fight on our level. And I'm still not sure they'll fight on our level. Why should they if it's a super intellect? Fight us with bombs and cannons? They couldn't carry enough bombs and cannons in their spaceships to fight us. That's not the way they'll fight us. They'll fight us, they'll study our bodies, and attack us with something that they have, which there's no weight, it doesn't carry it on. And they could attack look right now, if they attack us only on a level that destroy our immune system, like the doctor said, I just like committing suicide. Send somebody into space and comes back with his immune system. The first disease that attacks him will kill him because the body can't destroy it itself. This is what I think of super intellect. And I think it's logical. The super intellect will fight us on that level. And we're not sure what level they'll fight us. They're supposed to be far above us. What you describe, the battle you described to me, what we would do, move in that area, you're thinking of almost World War I. That's what I did when I was in Italy, because we didn't know anything else. We'd bomb a city, attack, counterattack, destroy with artillery, and then move in. That's all we knew, to fight like barbarians. I think if we give them credit, a little bit of credit for being a super intellect, they'll never fight us that way. It'd be stupid. And I don't think that they're stupid. If they were able to create an extraterrestrial biological entities, that's a creation of a super intelligence. See, it's all the maneuvers in space and all the dangers in space, it has solved the problem. That's the sign of a super intelligence. And if they fight us or destroy us, even some of these people you just told me to give these lectures and say it'll be this way. Unfortunately, they're thinking in our terms. They're thinking like human beings and not like them. The little thing that I said about the flashlight when I said, I was serious when I said that. I was like a stupid human. I thought the battery was dead. That's stupidity. A thing I got from space, and I sit there, and I'm supposed to be in charge, and I say, the battery's dead, and I put it away. What can be more stupid? Because even in another case, my answer was, stupid again, thinking like a human, what's in it for me? What a hell of a question to ask a super race. And that's stupidity. And I was serious when I said that. People laughed, but that was serious. When I thought it over, how dumb could I get to think there was a battery in this thing that came from space? A battery that wears out. And right now, I'm wearing a wristwatch. My son bought me this wristwatch because right on the back it says no battery ever available. And I'll read for you what it says. This is the type of thing where, let's see, it says something like here. I can't see it in either. Never put a battery in it. It's a lifetime battery in this watch. So you see what I'm talking about? They're not going to put a little battery in that wears out in 2 weeks in anything that they make. But I wasn't thinking in those terms. I was thinking like a human being. So these aren't easy things to answer. And a lot of people say you're guessing. Yes, in some cases I am. It's conjecture. I've tried to build it up from what I know. And this is the same thing that the British taught me. The British taught me when I worked for them years ago that you don't, in intelligence, yes, look for targets and things. But that's not the main issue. The main thing you look for is intentions. They were right. You defeat an enemy by knowing his intentions, not by one bomb. And this is the same thing as this. I had to figure, and so some of it's going to be guesswork, naturally, to build up the mosaic. And I say, I have to think in my own brain, what's his intention? Naturally, I'm going to make mistakes because I don't know too much about him. But at least I can try. And where in this new science, you might be able to fill in or correct the mistakes that I've made because of lack of knowledge. And this is what I think it has to come to. Now, another thing, Maurizio, I've never talked like this to anybody because this wasn't a thing that discuss in these terms. Maybe with a couple of my science friends I have, but usually I don't.
But do you think that we do have some Italian scientists ready to help us?
Sure you do. The way I know this, they've been calling me. And you know what the main thing they were calling me about that's in the book? When I stated in one line or so in the book that this extraterrestrial is part of the flying saucer, they're all one. This is what they're calling me about, that they want to know. Because their opinion is true. They'll help. You got people like Malegno, what's his name? He'll help. Yes, a man say, but that lecture he gave, he'll want to help. People like that will come forward. But when? I don't know when. One day the general told me, when I told him that if we put this implant, ever put it in the human brain, what are we unleashing on the world? One thing the general said, he said, Phil, yes, it's a danger. Hope the people come after us understand, but it might not be in our lifetime. It wasn't in his lifetime. He died in 1992. And that's true. His words were correct. So that's the answer. These are another intelligence. They're ahead of us. They've proven it. In only one simple reason. They can fly in space and we can't. So it boils down to that simple. How are you going to overcome that? We don't know anything about how. So we got to start with what we know. The little we know is the greatest gift they gave us, the extraterrestrial, not the hardware. And that's the point that I think we've reached. Maybe that's my own preaching. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I can be wrong. That's the way I believe.
Now, this is a very sensitive subject that Malanga studied very deeply. He believes that the French, they know a lot of stuff. In Europe, the most advanced people in terms of military apparatuses and so far so on are the French AC.
Who?
French.
French, yeah.
French militaries. And we wonder if the French, they know more than anybody else in Europe. Because we suppose that they do have alien bases in their own territory. And maybe we do have also alien bases here in Italy. Is that possible?
Yes, it's possible. I don't know anything about it because I never bothered to look in that area. The British, after all, they got to Punamundo before we did. They got the documents out of there, what the Germans were doing. So the British might be more advanced than we are. That I don't know. I can't answer that, yes or no. I don't know. It's possible. Yeah, everything's possible. People even come to me and say, well, we have there's underground bases in the South Pole. My answer to that is, you know what it takes to keep a base in the South Pole? You know what it takes to supply a base? After all, if there's a base like that in the South Pole, you have to have humans in it. You know what it takes to make humans survive down there? What a tremendous effort it would be. And you think that could be hidden for 50 years or 40 years or 10 years or even 1 year? Can't be. We had a base in Greenland. And we made special an atomic device to send up our portable to give them water, heat, and electricity. Otherwise, they couldn't survive. They could survive only possibly maybe 1 year. And after 6 years, even with those advancements, we took the base away and left it. Because it was too harsh living conditions. We haven't solved those problems that live like that yet. So when these people tell me about the bases in the South Pole, underground, under the ice, and then they come in and say there's a Shangri-La there. So wait, how come we never heard of this? How come I had all the clearances and never heard of such a thing? But be logical. Just think what it takes to survive in that environment. We aren't that advanced yet. We might have gotten that, but through stupidity otherwise, they made us destroy those things. And you have them, now I give you a copy of them. Written by the U.S. Army, unclassified. You want it? Here, look at it. Here it is. How we made them. Pictures, how they were made. What have we done with them? Nothing. In fact, we did the opposite. We destroyed them. We were given instructions to get rid of them. So, you see, when I hear these things that there are bases in France and bases in England, I say, yeah, it could be. But just think of it. What it takes just to keep something like that secret. Almost an impossibility. Even the U.S. government, they say the U.S. government kept it all secret. It really wasn't kept secret by design. The system itself does it. And I always tell people, let the government alone, it'll cover itself up. So this is my answer. It's possible. I can't sit here and say, no, it's impossible. But I can say this. Maybe it's illogical, not there. Because the evidence can't be hidden that long. So on the other side, I got to say, I'm not going to look for it. I'm not going to try finding the information because I think I'm wasting my time. I'll work with what I got and know. This is my answer, man. This is to be a realist. Even when I was working with General Trudeau, he called me in one day and he said, you're going to be project officer on the anti-missile missile. And don't tell me you don't have the time. I know you don't, but you'll do it. I'll put you in charge. You get it started at the right time. You recommend somebody who will take over for you. I was too busy even to do that, but he made me do it, and I did it. And it worked out pretty good. And now I'm look back, I'm glad he put me in charge. I was actually the first project officer on the anti-missile missile. I'm glad I did it now, but you see what I was up against, what you're up against, things like, how long can you keep things quiet? How much can you do?
Now, going back to those 2 or 3 discs that you recovered, I mean, the one you saw.
I saw 2 of them, yeah.
You saw 2 of them?
Yeah.
Where?
Well, the one I don't talk about, I think you know where it was. And even on this show, uh, this guy mentioned that machine, and then I didn't say anything else. The one I saw was at one of the air bases. Yeah, I'm not going to say where it was, but it was there. And that was it. I didn't go in it. And I say that I had a lot of information on what was inside. There was nothing I could gain by going inside and looking at it. I had the drawings how it looked inside. I had what was in there. And really, to go in, it would have been curiosity. And in those days, I didn't have the time for your curiosity. Since I knew already what was there and I had the reports known, what would I gain by going in there? I had to take off anyway and go back. And it wasn't, in those days, it wasn't like something new that I was discovering new. I knew about the things. And so I let it go. Yeah, there was curiosity. At times I liked to see what was in there. But not always. I've gone in new projects, new airplanes we built to see what they were. But in many cases, I knew what was there already. And remember, I didn't have that much time. Really, when I was working in research and development, the time element was one of the things. There wasn't enough hours in the day to do what I was doing.
Who were the scientists working on that craft, for instance?
Oh, I don't know.
Aerospace people, technicians?
They were mostly, they called themselves aerospace technicians in large. But then many times I've questioned that definition too. Were they really aerospace technicians? Because I know people in the UFO field now call themselves nuclear physicists, nuclear. What did they do? I don't have any idea what they do. Where did they get that name? That they fabricated themselves? I used to go to Belvoir to our atomic labs that belonged to us and we financed. And they created atomic engine. That didn't make me a nuclear physicist. In fact, more like when I'd go there, I was the dumbest one in the area because everybody else knew what they were doing. I didn't know. I just go there because I happened to be the one that was in the higher headquarters and worked on the budget for them. So there's a lot of things happening. And a lot of the books, people say, well, he's read the books. I never read any of these UFO books. The only two books I've ever read were Jack Valley's books because I knew I met him. He was a friend, considered a friend, and we talked about it. I never read any of these other books because I figured, what? It's the same thing. They talk to maybe a different witness, and that's all can be there. And how much did the witness know? And then I asked the question, were you there when I was doing this work? What clearances did you have? That answers the question, and they shy away from that. They don't want to answer those questions. And you have to look at the people who call themselves professional speakers. They get around and give the little lectures, they get paid for it. And it don't matter. I think it's a way of life. Let them alone. I don't care. I'm not going to discuss this with them. They criticize me. So what? Let them criticize. They'll fall their own weight. It doesn't matter. In fact, to tell you the truth, is a lot of times I've thought lately, why the heck did I write this book? Why did I just forget it and go back in my easy chair? Why did I do it? Now there's other books to be written. And many times I look at them all and I figure, why don't I throw them away and get rid of them and forget it? Then I look at my kids, my grandchildren, and I figure, well, I better not forget it. Maybe I'll do something with it. I gave this talk to 2,500 people up in Washington. They were all sitting on the ground. And I told this story many times. I hope, I say, why don't I throw them away and destroy them? And they all looked at me, so I told them, but I'll tell you what, I promise you I won't destroy them. They started to clap. Everyone gave me an ovation, and I said that simple little thing. I told them, in fact, I get the urge to destroy them, and I look at my grandchildren, I think, I can't destroy them. There's nothing else, I'll leave it for them.
Okay, I don't understand one part of your reconstruction of the entire situation pertaining to the physical body of the alien, that's integrated part of the craft. When he fades, when he disappears because he's out of his environment, electromagnetic environment, he dies. What happens to the craft? If the craft is also an integrated part, or is the envelope of the creature,
Yeah.
supposedly also the craft is affected by time.
It's affected because it has an atomic structure around it. And remember, it builds up a plasma area around the outside. And like Obert said, it has an electromagnetic surrounding. It pushes through air in this world, and it collects its energy from Einstein's words. Space is an atomistic structure, and it draws it atoms from space. For a certain time longer than the body, I think, this is what I think, there's enough electromagnetism in this world where it can draw. So the extraterrestrial, he's a little different. He's composed in a way of cells also, like humans are. This structure has some metallic surroundings, so it has to survive in space, from debris in space, which keeps striking it constantly. It'll knock holes in it. So there's a little different strength there that will last a few more years. It is really almost a biological type of biological structure, because the extraterrestrial fits in it, but made with a little more strength that's needed in the extra. Remember, these cloners that made these things made them in a way where they would fit in what they wanted them to fit in. The ship itself is maybe a biological type structure because of the cell and the atom structure, but it's all created with more strength because it has to resist more. This being is protected in a way. Now, when this being comes in this world, he will wear a suit, skin-tight suit, which we found. His skin is atomically aligned, and his suit is atomically aligned. That's to repel radiation and harmful effects, even cosmic action. Since he doesn't breathe air, the ones that come alive in this world will have a type of helmet on them. And since he doesn't speak, he has no vocal cords, he will have something that intensifies that transmission, that he maybe can communicate. And actually, I think that they've been seen this way.
So the machines, sooner or later, will fade away, will disappear.
Sooner or later, it'll disappear. Remember, basically, the structure is like ours. And I don't, Bill, let it sit out. It's all iron and steel, but eventually it'll rust and fade away and disappear, and not be worth anything. Give it enough years, the whole world's like it. The world changes its structure, and leave it alone for years.
So if we are talking about 61, 62, 63, and now we are 98, maybe in 30, 35, 36 years, they disappear though.
Well, I never figured what the time element is. I can't tell you if it'll be 35 years, 40 or 50. I've never gotten into that to do that. So I don't know. I can't answer the question.
I cannot imagine the frustration of these American engineers seeing the machines disappearing in front of their own eyes.
Well, there have been frustrations in the extraterrestrial in studying it. It would decompose and it would almost disappear in front of your eyes. What can you do about it? We didn't have enough knowledge to know what to do about it. Well, the human body deteriorates and disappears.
Is that possible, that the bodies were kept in cryogenic suspension or something like that?
I don't think we were that far advanced to do that, because I knew what Walter Reed and some of these places were doing. I don't think that we were that far advanced to create some sort of liquid or something. And remember, we found that in almost everything we did, that there was one web that went through everything. It was electromagnetic. When we were in a position where we used electromagnetic to do something on that order, it killed the crew, the Philadelphia experiment. So you see, we didn't know enough really to use anything like this yet. And a good example is the Philadelphia experiment itself, which I just gave you a thing. Fortunately, People ask me if other people come forward to talk to you. There's one case where the man came forward because of the book to talk to me. Now we're friends. And he was there.
That liquid in which the body you saw was suspended was blue, isn't it? Or bluish.
The one I saw, I'm not sure whether it was blue. I turned the flashlight on it, and I'm not real sure that I know what it was, the color was. It looks a grayish, bluish type. But I can't say.
What liquid was it?
It was a liquid, but remember what it was. It was a liquid that we did to, in our world, to propagate or keep our bodies in existence, not the thing we got there. Of course, we didn't know any better, so we used that for this body, that other body. But we didn't shut out electromagnetism, is the trouble. Or it wasn't there at all, didn't put it in. Though that type of fluid was for human bodies. In fact, maybe we'd have been better off to use what the Egyptians used in their mummies, the way they did it. Because the liquid was our liquid that we invented in our time to preserve bodies of humans. It wasn't anything new that was invented on the spur of the moment. That was not possible anyway. Because things like that, it takes years of experiments.
So obviously the Americans were going, step by step, attempting to find solutions in those years, solutions that were not really feasible to the subject.
Well, I think the statement that you just made, Maurizio, you give us too much credit. Because in that statement you can say, even Corso worked step by step. Yes, I did. But how much did I really accomplish? You're giving us too much credit when you say that. We didn't really accomplish that much. And the main thing that I see now that we should have worked on, we didn't work on. Let me give you examples. I had von Neumann's file, Artificial Life. He was a genius. What did I do with it? Put it in my file. We discussed Einstein one day. I decided to go see Einstein. What did I do? I was at the White House. I could have called him. I did nothing. Wilbur Smith came to see me. The general told him, you and Colonel have a lot to talk about. He said, I'll send you some papers of my experiments and come out to Mayboro, his laboratory. When I finally got around 7 or 8 months later to call the man who was a genius, his secretary answered me, Mr. Smith died just a few weeks ago. Again, I missed out on things. You see, we were doing, on the other hand, people say, well, you accomplished something. Yeah, I accomplished some things. What about what I didn't accomplish? There's situations just like that happened. How much time did I have? How much did I know? You know, you've heard me announce always in the course of the speech, I'll always bring up. Now, don't get the idea, ladies and gentlemen, that we knew what we were doing all the time, because we didn't. And I say that over and over, to let them know that these weren't geniuses working on these things. We were people, I was the man, and the people with me were just like them. We weren't geniuses way advanced our time. We had to plod little by little, step by step, to find out what was going on, what these things were.
But if Einstein was involved in research such as the alien stuff that you had in your hands, you believe that maybe those steps were a little more faster?
Maurizio, if I get to the point where I will publish the book I read, and this is the last thing I'll tell you now, the one I've written that I want to be a sequel to this book, at the end of every chapter, I have an explanation from Einstein, what that means in his terms. I showed it to a couple of scientists, friends of mine. What do you think? Do I explain it enough? He says, well, one thing I was interested to see, that I think you understand Einstein. I told him, I wish I did understand it all. And I fitted them in certain things on this subject that his theories fit in, his explanations. Once one of the top scientists I know, a good friend of mine, said only in one area you make a little mistake. The others are all right. Now, I hope someday maybe they'll put that out. But if these people beat me in the law case, I might never put it out. And it explains, in Einstein's word, what these things we're talking about mean. I tried to do that. And it's quite lengthy. And some of the things that Einstein's there, at times I pull them out and read them over again. And I figure, do I really, this was one of the greatest brains that ever lived. Do I really think I understand this? Is this what he meant? And when you read it, you'll see what I mean. So I did do that. But I was remiss. Why didn't I go see him? And remember, I had the authority. I could send an airplane. I could have gone up there anytime I wanted. And what did I do? Nothing. And the biggest thing of all that I look back was this study I'm trying to do now to think back on the extraterrestrial. I did nothing except finance one laboratory on one thing. Why didn't we study it when we had the time, had the opportunity? We didn't. And now I think back how much more important that was in weapons. Yet what was our main drive? Weapons. And look how much more important that is. I think that the study of this extraterrestrial might be the future of mankind. Somebody has to do it eventually. But how much do we have now? Do we have one body? Can we get one? I don't know of any. Even the picture you showed me, just from the face and characteristics, the way the thing was acting, I have many reservations whether that really wasn't staged. Because I don't think the thing would act like that at all, the ones I knew. I think they're more serious looking than look like a clown. Their face moving in all directions. You see, that's what, when you showed me that, I was sort of non-committal. I don't want to tell you it was, in my opinion, it's not, it won't act like that. But anyway, maybe it is. I hope we do have one like that. Well, I would like to see it. And some of the things they said there in the military wouldn't be logical. They said these men weren't trained. And you remember when they said that? And I picked that up. As a commander, I would have never allowed non-trained men to even to walk in there. Untrained men will destroy something for you. Not intentionally, but because of the lack of knowledge. It would be better not to bring them in there because they might cause you damage. This way it lasts a little bit. And as a military commander, I had to think that way all the time. I don't put men on my missiles that had atomic warheads unless they were trained. I wouldn't dare make them go near that missile. It'd be too dangerous. Even when I commanded missiles, one day, 2 of my soldiers got drunk. And they went out and started playing with the missile, picking it up and down. And when I found out immediately, they were drunk. I court-martialed them both, and I gave orders, anybody that fools with the missiles, the guards will shoot to kill. Because the missiles were pointing, some of them were pointing at housing areas. What if and they had the knowledge to set one off. What if one of those would have gone in the housing area? With warheads in them. And with 30 kiloton warheads in some of them. What would have happened? And there was a situation of trained men who got drunk. Of course, they paid for it. I court-martialed them. And I had to give an order where even if a man gets drunk, he'll still think about it. If I play with that, somebody might shoot me. Even when you're drunk, you don't forget things like that. But you see, these are things that, when people show me this thing, I hold in reservation. And when I hear some of these speakers, I sit there and they're nice people, I'm not going to say anything. And if you remember right, I don't say anything about what they said. I go out and make friends with them, nice people. But I'm not going to try to destroy them. Why should I?